Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. Government decides to mark 60% of expenditure under Mandaraka for agriculture and allied activities. Rural Development Minister tweets this is to make the scheme useful for agriculture. NDA meets ahead of budget session. Government looks for support of all allies as it gears up for renewed push for GST bill. Meet chalks out strategy to highlight centre's pro-poor policies. Miracle tale from Siachen Glacier. One soldier pulled out alive from avalanche after being buried for 6 days. 5 bodies have been recovered so far. Former Nepal Prime Minister Sushil Korala passes away in Kathmandu following illness. He was 77. Prime Minister Modi offers condolences. And after the Iowa caucus, presidential hopefuls gear up for New Hampshire primary. Donald Trump leads among Republicans while Bernie Sanders has the upper hand over Hillary Clinton on the Democrat side. Well, the centre has decided to mark 60% of the expenditure under the Mandaraka for agriculture and allied activities. The announcement was made by Rural Development Minister Birendra Singh on Twitter. Singh said that this was being done to make Mandaraka useful for agriculture. The government has been maintaining for some time that employment under the scheme would be provided only through works that are more productive, asset creating and substantially linked to agriculture and allied activities. As Mandaraka completed 10 years last week, the Narendra Modi government, which was earlier critical of the UPA's flagship rural job scheme, hailed the measure, saying that the achievements of a decade are a cause of national pride and celebration. More than 64% of the works taken up under the program are linked to agriculture and allied activities, the government had noted. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley had earlier said that the government was committed to strengthening Mandaraka and it has allocated 37,000 crore rupees this fiscal, the highest ever budgetary support to the scheme. Meanwhile, ahead of the likely stormy budget session, the BJP held a meeting of NDA allies on Monday. BJP President Amit Shah presided over the meet to chalk out a strategy to highlight the government's pro-poor policies and for better floor coordination in the parliament. The government is looking for the support of all its allies as it gears up for a renewed push for the GST bill in the Rajya Sabha. Issues like Dalit scholar Rohit Vemula's suicide, Malda violence and imposition of president's rule in Arunachal Pradesh were also deliberated upon in the meet. The budget session will begin on February 23rd. The concern of improper coordination among alliance partners was also raised. Shiv Sena and Akali Dal said that there was lack of coordination in the ruling coalition, adding that they were not being consulted on several issues. To address the issue, Shah will hold a one-to-one meeting with the ally leaders. He will meet Akali Dal and TDP leaders today and hold similar meetings with the other allies in the coming days.
It was also decided that we should highlight the pro-poor, pro-weaker section, pro-farmer initiatives taken up by the government from time to time. The recent initiatives taken by the government with regard to Ambedkar Memorial in Mumbai, in London, in Delhi. Historic initiatives taken by this government and also the prevention of atrocities against scheduled caste and scheduled tribe.
Well, a two-day conference of governors will kick-start in the national capital today. President Pranab Mukherjee will preside over the conference to be held at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Governors from 23 states and lieutenant governors of 2 union territories will discuss security, job creation and other issues of national importance with the union cabinet. Anti-terrorism strategy and employment generation will be the key focus of discussions. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and a number of union ministers will participate in the meet. The others scheduled to attend the conference include Vice President Hamid Ansari, Home Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar and a number of union ministers of state. Well, the Congress has reiterated its demand of a Supreme Court-monitored probe into the allegation of undue favours to Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel's daughter in the allotment of land near the Gir Lion Sanctuary. The party has sought the Prime Minister's clarification on the controversy. This will be just one of many issues that the Congress plans to raise in the forthcoming budget session. Here's more.
Who is benefiting by the flagrant violation of the Environment Protection Act and the Wildlife Act? And Mr. Prime Minister, if this is not corruption, then would you care to explain to the country as to what exactly is this? And therefore we would like to reiterate that this is a fit case for a court-monitored investigation.
Congress party upped the ante against the ruling BJP on Monday by repeating its allegations against the Gujarat CM. The party alleges that Anandiben Patel gave undue favours to her daughter in the allotment of land near Gir Sanctuary. The main opposition party also made it clear that it will raise this and several other issues in the forthcoming budget session.
There are substantive issues which have been raised, and there are no answers on those substantive issues. The government tries to browbeat the opposition by making the charge of disruption. It is the responsibility of government to run parliament. It is their responsibility to reach across the aisle and try and establish a modus vivendi, which then creates a situation which is conducive for the appropriate and the proper functioning of the House. And the Prime Minister has completely and absolutely failed to show that statespersonship.
The government, meanwhile, has urged all political parties to ensure smooth functioning of Parliament during the budget session, saying it was willing to discuss all issues.
मेरा विनती ये है सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी से सेशन को चलने दीजिए, पार्लियामेंट को चलने दीजिए. लोकतंत्र में डिबेट, डिस्कशन, डिसाइड ये 3 प्रिंसिपल्स हैं और वो होने दीजिए. आपका कोई आपत्ति है, कोई मुद्दा है, मुद्दा उठाइए. कोई भी चीज उठाने में कोई संकोच नहीं है. हर एक विषय के बारे में चर्चा करने के लिए, समाधान करने के लिए हम तैयार हैं.
Just last week, Prime Minister had attacked the Congress party, saying one family was not letting the Parliament function smoothly. This had led to a prompt rebuttal and a war of words between the government and the main opposition just 2 weeks before the start of the budget session. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
In more political news now, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi will begin his 2-day visit to Kerala today. He is scheduled to meet party leaders and discuss strategies to adopt in the coming assembly elections. Rahul will arrive by a special flight to Thiruvananthapuram by noon. He will address Congress workers at the conclusion of the Janaraksha March taken out by the KPCC President. He will later attend a meeting of senior party leaders. The presence of the Gandhi is likely to give a boost to the party workers in the backdrop of the UDF government facing attacks in the bar bribery and solar scams. On Wednesday, the Congress Vice President will be addressing a KPCC executive meeting and will also be meeting DCC presidents and leaders of various allied organizations of the party in the state. Gandhi will then leave for Kochi, where he will be visiting the startup village at Kinfra Park and address the National Executive of the National Students' Union of India. Well, in some other news now, it's been a miraculous tale of survival. One soldier has been found alive in the February 3rd avalanche that hit Siachen. According to the Northern Army commander, he was found alive buried 25 feet under snow in the Siachen glacier. The Jawan is in critical condition after rescue teams got to him 6 days after the efforts began. The army is making all efforts to evacuate Lance Naik Hanumantappa to the nearest hospital in the morning. 5 bodies have been recovered so far, out of which 4 have been identified. The army says all other soldiers are no more. The army says it is hoping for another miracle after Hanumantappa's survival. He hails from Karnataka. A junior commissioned officer and 9 other ranks of the Madras regiment were buried after their post was hit by an avalanche at the altitude of 19,600 feet, close to the line of control with Pakistan, where the temperature was minus 45 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, for the second day running, the deposition of David Coleman Headley will continue before a special court in Mumbai via video conferencing. On day one of his deposition, Headley told the court that Pakistani terrorists had tried to attack Mumbai twice before the 26/11 strike, failing both times. Headley, a Pakistani-American Lashkar-e-Toiba operative, has turned approver in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks case. Here's more.
In the first deposition on a terror act from foreign soil, LET operative David Headley told a court in Mumbai that Pakistani terrorists made 2 failed attempts on Mumbai before they were successful in attacking the city on 26 November 2008. That strike killed 166 people. The deposition, made via video conferencing, began at 7 a.m.
It appears from the today's testimony of Mr. Headley that LET had a well-planned to attack India on the various parts and to commit terrorist activities. Headley made it very clear that Lashkar-e-Toiba is a militant organization working in the Pakistan. So I did probe him as to, before the 26th November, did LET had made any attempt to attack Mumbai? And immediately Headley replied that he was told by one Mr. Sajid Mir, who was his handler, that there were 2 unsuccessful attacks prior to 26th November. And the first attack was September 2000 and October 2008.
I think his Indian connections, which have not come to the fore till time, they would become apparent. And as it is said that David Headley repeatedly came to India, he had many accomplices.
Headley, who has been made an approver in the case, admitted that his main contact in LET was Sajid Mir, another accused. Headley came to India 8 times, 7 before 26/11 and once after that. On these visits, Headley drew maps, took videos and scouted several targets.
उन्होंने सिर्फ इतना ही कहा है कि मैं हफीज सैयद के कहने पे मैं LET का काम किया हूँ और उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि इस घटने के पहले 26/11 के पहले 2 और कोशिश हुए थे जो असफल रहे और यही 10 लोग जो 26/11 को आए थे वो 2 बार पहले भी आ चुके थे लेकिन उस समय उनका जो प्रयत्न था वो असफल रहा.
Some information given by David Headley also reportedly points to the involvement.
Now it has come on the record that Ali and Major Iqbal, they are ISI guys, and they allowed him to be free from that case. This is an information which we sought. We have further sought the information from him that in the leadership course who had taught you. Then he said that Hafiz Saeed, who is the founder of Lashkar-e-Toiba, he further said that Zakir Rahman Lakwi taught me. So it is clearly seen that there is a close nexus between ISI and LET. That is what has been gathered from the revelation made by Mr. Headley.
The question is whether Pakistan will call David Coleman Headley for deposition in its own court. If it does, it will be really considered that Nawaz Sharif is serious against terrorism.
Headley, who is currently serving a 35-year prison term in the US for his role in the terror attacks, changed his name from Dawood Gilani to David Coleman Headley in 2006 as he wanted to enter India with an American identity. The court is also currently trying key plotter Abu Jandal, who is facing trial for his alleged role in the terror attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let's now listen into some of the reactions coming in after the Headley deposition.
It is already known that who is involved in the entire case and where are the backgrounds of Headley's all this working system and supports, backup and everything. It will lead us to very logical conclusion of the case.
We would like Pakistan now immediately to take action against Hafiz Saeed, who even till last week was giving speeches against the very idea of India. I think the government of the day must take concrete and tough steps in a time-bound manner which we can move forward with.
It is definitely significant because NIA interrogation didn't have any legal validity. It didn't have any legal validity and whatever is happening in the court will have legal validity.
इसका importance यही है कि अब direct evidence अमेरिकन सिटीजन का जो कबूल जिसने किया है कि उसने पाकिस्तान के ISI के लिए काम किया हुआ है हिंदुस्तान के खिलाफ और जो खुद शायद उसको 30 साल की सज़ा मिली है अमेरिकन कोर्ट में जो अमेरिकन लॉज का उसका वायलेशन हुआ है तो वो तो पूरा credible witness है.
He will bring before the world the involvement of the Pakistan Army and the ISI in planning, preparing for and launching and monitoring the terror attack. Now, so I mean, this distinction, this so-called bogus distinction between state and non-state actors would have been blown open. And, you know, that distinction Pakistan cannot maintain any longer.
Moving on now, the Shahi Imam of the Jamia Masjid, the Syed Ahmad Bukhari, has urged the Prime Minister for transparency in arresting Islamic State sympathizers in the country. The Shahi Imam later said that the Prime Minister has promised to look into cases where wrong arrests have been made in the name of the terror organization. In the meeting that lasted for half an hour, the Shahi Imam also raised the issue of minority character of the Aligarh Muslim University and the Jamia Millia Islamia. He conveyed to the Prime Minister that the government's stand in the Supreme Court on their minority character had created grave concern among Muslims.
तीन मुद्दों पर मैंने बात की है. एक है IS के नाम पर जिस तरह नौजवानों की गिरफ्तारियां हो रही हैं. दूसरे अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी और जामिया यूनिवर्सिटी के माइनॉरिटी कैरेक्टर पर मैंने तफसीली गुफ्तगू की. तीनों मुद्दों पर मुसलमानों में काफ़ी तशवीश पाई जाती है और ख़ासकर जिस तरह से गिरफ्तारियां की जा रही हैं नौजवानों की और मदारिस में पढ़ने वालों की या मदारिस में पढ़ाने वालों की, इससे मुसलमानों में काफ़ी नाराज़गी है.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but much more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All the parties, they are looking for political marriages at the moment. They are trying to enter into some kind of an alliance. But yours is the only party which is focusing you as the chief ministerial candidate.
In this election, we are the one who will allocate the seats. And that's not going to be the opposite leg.
Now the reality of your party is that it is seen as a very casteist party.
PMK is the only party who has done maximum for the Dalits than any party in Tamil Nadu.
Watch To The Point with PMK leader Dr. Ambumani Ramadas only on Rajya Sabha television. Gyan Chopper is the ancient version of Indian snakes and ladders. This intriguing game was popular among the old, the young, and the rulers as well. The chopper has its origin in the Jain philosophy. It tells the story of virtue. Each square, in turn, also narrates some message of wisdom.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India on Monday struck down differential pricing for internet services offered by telecom companies to mobile users. This was done in a bid to uphold the principles of net neutrality in what was being seen as a closely watched test case in emerging markets like India. The decision came as a huge blow to Facebook and other operators offering differential data tariffs. Here's a report.
Facebook's plan to roll out free internet to the masses in India suffered a big jolt on Monday when the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India announced an immediate ban on differential pricing for internet services. The telecom regulator ruled that no service provider shall offer or charge discriminatory tariffs for data services offered based on content.
Today we have come out with a regulation which essentially mandates that no service provider shall charge differential pricing on the basis of application, platforms or websites or source. So it should be not based on source, destination, type of content or the application.
Data packs that currently offer discounted rates for some content will not be removed abruptly and customers can use them till they expire. A fine of 50,000 rupees would be levied per day, subject to a maximum of 50 lakh rupees for any violation of regulations by the service providers. An exemption, however, has been made for offering emergency services.
There will be a financial disincentive an amount of rupees 50,000 for each day of contravention, subject to a maximum of rupees 50 lakh. Now, of course, it is also provided that no order for such kind will be given unless the operator has been given an opportunity of being heard.
The decision brought cheer among supporters of net neutrality, but the telecom industry expressed disappointment.
The TRAI has been very futuristic in its perspectives in coming up with these regulations of 2016, which actually ban all kinds of discriminatory pricing as far as any content-related services is concerned. Today's decision of TRAI is a landmark decision. Why? Because from the perspective of the common man, it actually symbolizes.
It puts in place the TRAI order, which I've gone through, puts in place the most extensive and the most stringent regulation and in fact a ban on differential pricing anywhere in the world, much more so than Chile, which is often quoted, or Slovenia or Netherlands or the EU, which has adopted new regulations, much more than any of them which haven't done an outright ban of every form of differential pricing the way we have in India just now, and definitely more than the US, where they look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg was also left disappointed with the outcome. In a statement on Facebook, he promised to continue his efforts to eliminate barriers and give the unconnected an easier path to the internet. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, who had lent support to net neutrality, hailed the decision as a big win for internet users in India. The new rules come amid a long-running debate on net neutrality, wherein Facebook has been facing flack for its free basics platform, while operators like Airtel have been at the receiving end for similar plans announced earlier. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on to some economic news now, India's GDP grew at 7.3% in the October-December quarter. The numbers show that India's economy is expanding faster than the 6.8% growth posted by China in the same quarter. However, there has been moderation in growth compared to the September quarter when GDP growth hit 7.4%. The rise in domestic demand witnessed during the festival season supported growth even as global headwinds had an adverse impact on manufacturing and exports. The data released by the Central Statistics Office also projected Indian economy to grow at 7.6% in 2015-16.
What it reflects is that the policies and the reform measures which the government has undertaken over the last 1.5 years or so, that they are, I think, beginning to show results. The process of reforms and the process of policy initiatives, all that will continue. And especially satisfying and noteworthy is the growth in industries, the industrial growth, with special focus on manufacturing. Agriculture, yes, continues to be a matter of concern, that we know because of 3 years of consecutive drought. Yes. But overall the numbers are, the direction of the numbers are very positive, and that is, I think, something which we should make note. So
some overseas news now. Former Prime Minister of Nepal and Nepali Congress President Sushil Korala passed away due to pneumonia at his residence early today. He was 77. Korala, who was elected Prime Minister of Nepal on February 10, 2014, died at his residence in Maharajganj in the outskirts of the capital Kathmandu. He had returned from the US after undergoing successful treatment for lung cancer. Korala is credited with promulgating the new constitution of Nepal in September last year. His body will be taken to the party's central office at Sanepa, Kathmandu, and kept there for the last tributes to be paid. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has conveyed his condolences to the Koirala family. He said Sushil Korala ji's simplicity holds lessons for all of us. My condolences to the Koirala family and people of Nepal in this hour of grief. In Sushil Korala ji, NC has lost a big leader who served Nepal for decades, and India lost a valued friend pained by his demise, is what the Prime Minister said. Meanwhile, agitating Madhesis in Nepal have finally called off their nearly 5-month-long strike. The end of the strike has brought much-needed relief to the country that has suffered severe shortage of fuel, medical and other supplies due to the protest against the new constitution. The call-off comes after a meeting of the United Democratic Madhesis front leaders, although they have decided to continue their agitation till their demands are addressed. The announcement to end the border blockade also comes ahead of Nepal Prime Minister KP Oli's trip to India on February 19th, his first overseas visit since taking over as the Nepalese premier. Well, after a loss in the Iowa caucus, the U.S. Republican presidential nominee hopeful Donald Trump looks all set to sweep the New Hampshire primary today. According to a CNN poll of polls, Trump topped the GOP field with 31%, well ahead of Marco Rubio's 15%. Meanwhile, among Democratic hopefuls, Bernie Sanders took the upper hand with an expected 54% votes over Hillary Clinton. Here's more.
With the politicians, they said
U.S. presidential hopefuls racing across New Hampshire, anxiously making their final appeals to voters ahead of the primary amidst a winter storm.
We have now is the most selfish generation of leadership this nation's ever faced.
According to CNN poll of polls, billionaire businessman Donald Trump holds a chance of winning as he topped the GOP with 31%, well ahead of Marco Rubio's 15%. Ted Cruz followed with 13%. Republican candidate Marco Rubio decried the state of government as uninterested in the future of the country. He assured defense spending would be safe in his administration.
You know, my whole life has been about taking money. And I joke, I say, my whole life has been about being greedy. I'm greedy, I'm greedy, I'm greedy. Now, I'm going to be greedy for the United States. I'm going to bring in money for the United States and jobs.
Proposing a slate of progressive reforms, Democratic presidential hopefuls Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton made a last-ditch attempt in Manchester.
Then you won't have to worry about breaking the glass ceiling.
Hillary defended, saying her promises were similar to Sanders but more realistic. Reports suggest Sanders holds an upper hand in New Hampshire primary.
What this campaign is about is a political revolution which understands that no president can do it alone. That millions of us are going to have to stand up and be loud and clear in saying that our government belongs to all of us, not just the 1%.
Middle class families will not have a tax increase when I am president, but I'm going after the millionaires, the multimillionaires, the corporate loopholes, the gimmicks, the money through the Bahamas, through Bermuda. Imagine that we can once again believe that it truly is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
On the ground, there is mixed reaction among voters.
We elected a black president. We re-elected a black president. We're all quite proud of that. Gay marriage is a law of the land. The world hasn't ended. We've seen plenty of gay couples on TV. And we're a tolerant nation. And people are angry. They're angry for a multitude of reasons.
The New Hampshire primary is the first actual primary in the U.S. presidential election process and is considered a key race. The primary will allow candidates to find out how they appeal to a broader audience.
I can tell you.
It also allows undeclared voters to vote either in Republican primary or Democratic primary. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the U.S. today said it will help South Korea deploy an advanced missile defense system as soon as possible. This comes just a day after North Korea launched a rocket calling for international condemnation and fresh UN sanctions. U.S. officials said it will shield South Korea from the growing threat posed by North Korea. Reports suggest both American and South Korean officials will soon begin formal negotiations over deploying the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System near the border with North Korea.
As a result of this launch, the United States has begun formal consultations with our allies in South Korea about moving equipment and technology that could support a THAAD system into South Korea to protect our allies there.
Shifting focus to some sports news now. India's gold rush at the 12th South Asian Games continued with the host nation bagging 23 golds on day 4 of the competition. Indian archers swept the compound events, winning 5 gold and 2 silver medals. The archers swept the mixed as well as men's and women's individual event. In wrestling, Indian grapplers claimed 5 gold and 1 silver to end the games with a total of 14 gold and 2 silver. In swimming, India bagged 3 gold, while in weightlifting they added 4. India also clinched 2 gold in badminton, with the men's and women's teams winning their respective finals. In squash, Joshna Chinnappa won the women's singles event. The Indian cycling teams also clinched gold in the women's 40 kilometer and 70 men's kilometer team trial events. In the men's hockey, India lost to Pakistan 1-2 in the round-robin match. The women's team, however, defeated Sri Lanka 12-1. India now is sitting pretty at the top of the medals tally with 53 gold, 19 silver and 6 bronze medals. Sri Lanka is second with 11 gold, followed by Pakistan with 4 golds and Bangladesh with 3. Some more sports news now, boosted by their 3-0 clean sweep of Australia down under. A confident India would seek to continue their winning momentum when they take on a depleted Sri Lankan side in the first of 3 T20 internationals in Pune. The T20 series win will ensure that India retains their #1 position in the ICC T20 Championships table. The hosts will miss their test captain Virat Kohli, who has been rested before the more important Asia Cup and the World T20 events. However, fast bowler Bhuvneshwar Kumar has been recalled after the batsman sustained a thumb injury in Australia. Sri Lanka will also be without their regular T20 captain Lasith Malinga and test skipper Angelo Matthews for the entire series. Nuwan Kulasekara, Rangana Herat and Nuwan Pradeep will also miss the series due to their respective injuries. Ranchi and Visakhapatnam will host the other matches on February 12th and February 14th respectively. That's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a good day.